For all you dividend lovers out there, I have some exciting news. I'm going to be putting about 25% of my net worth into SCHD. Now, you may recall, if you've been watching our channel, we have a past video that we did talking about SCHD. Recently, I've decided to change the way in which I'm handling my money. I've got a lot of business. I got about 1,000 apartments and growing. And we have this Everything Money community, YouTube software and channel. And I look at it going, okay, I want to focus on reinvesting every dollar back in the business. And for the most part, we have. But recently I decided, okay, I like living under certain budgets and constraints. So I thought to myself, what's the best way for me to do this? Well, why don't I take a chunk of my money and set it aside and live purely off the interest and the dividends I receive, as well as options. So I went to my in-house analyst, Dalton. I said, Dalton, here's my plan. Put some ideas together. And he came back to me and said, Paul, why don't we just do SCHD? And I was like, oh, that's not a bad idea. And the reason I liked it so much was this. I don't want as much volatility. Now, this is SCHD from its inception versus the S&P 500 total return. Now, you might look at this saying, oh my God, that's a huge difference. Yeah, but when did that huge difference occur? During major bull markets. Here's where it started. Here. This is where the big difference occurred. As these tech stocks started to skyrocket. In late 2021, when we had all the surges of EV stocks and all these things started to happen, at that time, FANG was really popular. So I thought to myself, all right, that's not bad, but I don't really need the growth. What I'm more worried about is how do I get dividend? Well, guess what? Dividend here is 3.41%. Okay, well, on top of that, you guys know me. I love selling covered calls. I can sell covered calls on SCHD, maybe make 1 to 3% a year. So I'll be able to generate 4.5% to 6.5% per year in cash from my account, assuming I buy at today's levels. But you guys know me. I can get 5% from 90-day treasuries. I think the market's a little overpriced. So let's say I wait for a pullback and I'm able to get 5.5 to 7.5% cash return. That's a pretty solid way of living. Now, the reason I want you to hear this is a way that if you're older and have money set aside, but you haven't retired yet, this might be a good plan for you in the future to retire. And if you're younger, I do suggest that you invest in more aggressive methods of investing. Maybe SCHD is the right one for you, especially if you have a 401k or a IRA of some sort, so you don't pay taxes every year on that income. It's a great way to generate cash flow for your accounts. Now, remember, I'm not as in love with dividends as everybody else is. I think dividends are a great way to get cash returns, but in most cases, they're not the best use of the company's cash. It is a double taxation. The company's taking their profit, pay taxes on it, then they pay out that profit, you get taxed again. Also, if the company has a lot of growth potential to reinvest in, why are they paying a dividend out? I'd rather have them do other things with the money, like buy back cheap shares, make other investments, maybe pay down some debt. But people love dividends. And SCHD focuses on good dividend paying companies. Let me show you some of these companies. This is the top 25 holdings for SCHD. Lockheed Martin, AbbVie, Coca-Cola, BlackRock, Home Depot, Bristol-Myers, Cisco, Amgen. Guys, all these companies you know. These are great companies. And the best part is, which one of these are hype companies? None of them. 0 of them are hype companies. And that's what I love. Now remember, you have to be okay trailing the market for a portion of your money, because your goal here, and my goal in this, is to generate cash to live off of. It's not to become a billionaire. To sit there and say, I'm setting aside 25% of my net worth. I'm letting my real estate grow. I'm letting my businesses grow. And I'm just going to focus on living off this money. Now, as I get distributions from my company, et cetera, because we have excess cash, I can put that in this account and start growing that income even more. And that really is my ultimate goal. It's 25% of my net worth. But guys, I'm not going to lie, I'm a big spender now. I like taking nice trips. I like investing in, well, I guess you say investing is not really spending money, but I live a good life in terms of my spending. So I got to make sure it'll be a good way for me to sit there and say, how do I make this 25% last forever? So my other 75% can keep growing and growing and growing. And over time, that 75% of my money becomes 95% of my money. Now, again, I repeat, this is not for, I don't believe, in my personal opinion, that this is for somebody who's 18 or 19 years old. I personally believe this is for somebody that can, they want to generate tax efficient way by taking the dividends and putting it in a 401k or an IRA. Or if you're already retired or going to retire soon, this may be a good way for you to think about it. Now, I want to clarify something here. If you're 18, 19 years old and young, the big key is, I don't mind, because look at this. Yeah, it trailed a little bit in the S&P going back, but essentially it only trailed significantly at very big market highs. But remember, everybody wants to beat the market. They get upset when they trail the market. Me personally, it doesn't bother me. If I own the companies I own, I like them, I know that over long periods of time, I'm going to do well. What's my focus is, what are my goals? So you got to remember, in our software, we have a retirement calculator. Everyone who has that software, I highly encourage you to use this very regularly. Until recently, I was the number one user of this software until I was dethroned by somebody I actually know personally. I love using retirement calculator. Here's a spoiler. I'm never going to retire, and I have more than I need today. So you might be wondering, why do you use retirement calculator? Well, it's a great reminder to focus on what matters to me in my life. The reason I'm doing this 25% SCHD was because I use retirement calculator so much. I sit there and say, guess what? I don't need any more. What matters most to me is just being able to hit my goals. I've got tons of real estate. I've got businesses that are growing. What does it matter if 25% of my net worth is sitting in a lower return potentially? But as long as I'm hitting my goals, that's what matters. That's the kind of mentality I want you having. That is not the mentality I had until about 3 or 4 years ago. Before then, it was as much as possible at all times. No, you must do this because you got to. No, now it's like, well, I'm going to hit my goals. I was recently asked by somebody, what's the one advice you'd give to somebody who's starting out? And I said to them, literally, I said, make sure you focus on your goals and be conservative about every assumption you make. Morgan Housel talks about this in The Psychology of Money. He says, assume you're going to live longer than you expect to live, and assume your returns are going to be worse than you expect. So if the market does 9 or 10%, put in 7.5 or 8% in here. If your life expectancy is 80, put in 90, 95. These are the things you have to do because you want to make sure you're going to hit your goals. How this has worked out for me is, it allowed me to sit there and say, does it really matter if I have 10x what I thought I was going to have, 3x, 5x? No, at the end of the day, it's still more than I need. So what matters to me is living the high quality life I do now with less stress. And it makes me pickier on my investments. I've told my wife, I want to own 10 or 20 lake houses that we rent out. Now, somebody out there might be like, well, Paul, if you don't really care, what does it matter? I still like doing these things. I still like investing. I have an addiction to investing, especially in real estate. Okay. But why would I want 10 or 20 houses? Because it's a great way for us to vacation, but also make money along the way. Now, it also made me pickier on my investments. Now I'm a little more cautious going, listen, if I'm going to have the hassle, I want to make sure it's worth my time and money. So before, if I was in accumulation mode, I might be willing to do a deal for 12 or 13%. But now I look at it going, no, I need to make 16 or 18% for me to do a deal. That's all from retirement calculator. It allows me to know what my goals are and pick and choose what I'm going to do based on that. It allowed me to sit there and say, you know what, Paul, you're going to have more than you need. You already have more than you need. So hit the need, and then from there, everything's cream. And that's what I'm doing with my 25% of my net worth. I'm putting it in there to say, Paul, hit your cream. Now, what does it need to do in order for me to be able to live the rest of my life this way? Basically, it's got to make 9 to 11% return for me to be able to live up that money the rest of my life. That's not very difficult. The difficult part's going to be volatility, because as you guys see, if we have major market pullbacks, it falls along with the S&P. Doesn't fall as much, but it still falls along with it. And if we have a long, drawn-out down cycle without me adding money, it can hurt. It absolutely can hurt, because I'm still going to pull money every single month along the way. My dividends and options, and maybe a little principal at times when the market's down. Those are things to consider. But again, I'm doing the same thing I'm advising for you. I put my assumptions in here, and I'm conservative about it. I'm so conservative that I did my numbers based on my 25% net worth, and it said the money would last me 14 years, assuming I made no extra money from capital growth, and assumed I never added money, and it assumed I had to pay the full taxes out on those dividends and options along the way, and assumed I never added money along the way. So I'm being conservative because there's no way that in 14 years I'm not going to add money to this. And it also assumes I'm increasing my spending by 6% per year. God, that's a big jump. That's a really big jump. 6% per year. It should really be 3 or 4% a year. But again, I'm being conservative. So in actuality, this money could last the rest of my life just by changing this assumption to 3 or 4% and adding just a little bit of money every single year to that account. And if I have real estate, it's going to write off a lot of the gains that I have in this account where I won't have to pay tax on anyhow. That's the big key. So guys, no matter what age you are, especially if you're young, I really want you to know where you stand. I really want you to use this retirement calculator. We have a great offer right now, $7 for 7 days. We're changing a lot of things. It allows you to test everything out. $7, $1 per day. I encourage you to do it. Click on the link in the description below, everythingmoney.com/sign up. And I'm very confident you're going to walk away thinking it was one of the best decisions you made. And if you didn't see our original SCHD video, here it is. Watch the next video. Thank you for your time.